Gina, it's very nice to meet you, and thank you so much for joining us here today as part of Positive Ageing Week 2020. For our viewers, would you just give a little bit about yourself and the services that you're involved in?
Great, thank you, and thanks for having me. So my name is Gina Delaney, and I'm a Development Officer with Mental Health Ireland, covering the South East. And so my role is to link in with groups and organisations and to support those groups and organisations around, I suppose, mental health, well-being and recovery initiatives that they're working with. And the hope is to raise awareness of mental health, of well-being and recovery and the options that are out there for people. You know, and I suppose the best ways for people to really think about how does my mental health impact on me, and as we're talking about positive ageing, how it can impact on my positive ageing as I move through my life.
Brilliant. And I think you have a few slides in that you're going to talk us through as well to explain a little bit more to us.
Yeah.
So, shall we get started on those?
Brilliant. Yeah, that's great. So I suppose by the end of our video, you know, we can take time to look at, I suppose, what do we mean by and develop our understanding of mental health, well-being and recovery. And we'll look then at two ways that we can help us, I suppose, in our lives. So one of those is the 5 ways to well-being. And we can apply those very simply in our life. They're very practical and simple steps that we can take, especially, I suppose, now as we find ourselves going through challenging times. And the other then is around CHIME, it's called. So CHIME is a way of supporting our recovery as we go through life challenges. And I suppose as we get older in life, we come across more of life's challenges because that's the nature of living, you know, that more things, I suppose, present themselves to us and we have to cope with them as best we can. So CHIME is a way of looking at that, I suppose, and I've kind of taken on board where we're at with things and supporting our recovery and well-being as well. So, yeah. So, yeah, as we take a look then through the slides as we'll show them. So Mental Health Ireland, I suppose, just to give a little bit of background on Mental Health Ireland as well. I absolutely love working with Mental Health Ireland. It's such a positive organisation to work with, and I feel, I suppose, very lucky because I can bring my lived experience as well to my role. So I was born, as all of us, with mental health. I was born with mental health as well as my physical health, and sometimes, like all of us, my mental health may not be, you know, as well as it could be or that, but usually for kind of good reasons. Like, you know, as I'm going through a challenge, I suppose my mental health will react to that. But then there are things that I can put in place to, I suppose, to help my mental health and that. So Mental Health Ireland, I suppose, is a great organisation in that it really helps to promote and highlight the different things that we can do for ourselves and that for our own mental health, and other ways that we can, I suppose, access organisations and services that can help us, you know, during difficult times. So that's, I suppose, a little bit about Mental Health Ireland. And I suppose if we think about, first of all, when we, I suppose, look at developing our understanding of mental health, if we look at how we consider physical health and mental health, you know. So I suppose as we're doing our video, if people have a pen and paper that they can kind of jot down some ideas, it might be nice. Journaling or reflecting is, you know, a great way, I suppose, to kind of to deepen our understanding of, you know, an issue or that as we're going through it. So if you have a piece of paper and a pen, you can jot down some ideas. So just to think about your understanding of physical health and mental health, and to write down some thoughts and ideas. And some people will often say when we're in a workshop that they feel that, I suppose, that sometimes there is more of a barrier around the mental health side of things, you know, and that it's much easier to talk about your physical health than it is to talk about your mental health. And I suppose that's really the importance of talking about it, because, as I said, we were all born with, you know, both of them. We're born with a body and born with a mind, and we have to look after both of them, you know. So I suppose that's really the holistic view then of, you know, health and that. So there are many different areas of life, I suppose, that impact on us as we move through them. And I suppose it's to take on board all of those areas. And then if we look at, I suppose, you know, each of us will have our own understanding of what mental health is really. But the World Health Organization, you know, has defined it as, I suppose, just having our ability to have a good sense of well-being, you know, to have our own good sense of well-being and a strength within us to help us to move through life. So, and as I said, we have our mental health and we have our physical health. And sometimes, as that expression goes, it's as easy as 1, 2, 3, you know. So it kind of starts with ourselves, and also then when we feel good about ourselves and within ourselves, then it moves on to our relationships, and we can, you know, I suppose have better and stronger relationships, and that then, I suppose, gives us a good ability to work with our relationships, work with our communities, and to feel good about ourselves as we do that. So. And when we think about, you know, why is it important, I suppose, during these particular times to look after our mental health and that. So I suppose we're all under much more stress at the moment. And I suppose, you know, we're all, I suppose, I know I certainly am feeling that, like, you know, I'm topped up to a certain amount, more so than usual now, because you're taking in information, you're trying to support other people, you're trying to mind yourself. So, you know, I suppose we need to, because we're topped up with our stress levels and our anxiety levels, we have to try and, I suppose, to top up our coping skills at the same time, like, you know, to try and match those. So, but, you know, sometimes I suppose people say, oh, yes, you know, I need to work on my coping skills and that, like, you know, but it can be hard to know, you know, well, what exactly is it that I need to do to support my well-being? So the good news is that I have a tool that we can use, and it's called the 5 Ways to Wellbeing, and it'll support our as we look at how do we cope and build on our coping skills. So the next, I suppose the next piece then is we're going to watch a little video. So there's a video called The 5 Ways to Wellbeing, and it's a great way just to, I suppose, it's a short video, that's the good news, it's a short video, and it puts a nice little understanding on the 5 Ways to Wellbeing. And when you've watched the video, then I can just talk us through those.
Did you know there are things we can do every day to improve our mental health and well-being? Connect. Connecting is about building and strengthening relationships with the people around you. We can do this by spending meaningful time with people each day, arranging a day out with friends, having lunch with someone you work with, or joining a sports team in your local community. By giving time to these relationships, we feel happier and more secure, giving us a better sense of purpose. Be active. Look for ways to be active every day. Find something you enjoy. It doesn't have to be a marathon, but something that suits your fitness and mobility. Cycling, gardening, walking, and dancing are all ways that we can get more active. Being active every day causes changes in our brain, which can positively affect our mood. Take notice. To take notice is to be present in the here and now. Pay attention to the world around you. Nature, people, your thoughts and feelings. Becoming more aware of the present moment can help us enjoy the world around us and understand ourselves better. Keep learning. Keep learning is about learning new skills and information about topics that interest us. We can keep learning by trying a new recipe, signing up for a nighttime course, fixing that broken bike, or taking on a new responsibility in work. Learning can boost our confidence and self-esteem, help build a sense of purpose, and help us connect with others. Give. Giving is about small acts of kindness for other people. You could make someone a cup of tea, sign up for volunteering, or offer to help someone you know with a project. You could just ask a friend or someone you work with how they are, and really listen to the answer. Giving back to others can create positive feelings and help us feel more satisfied with life. Each of the 5 ways have been shown to make a positive difference in how we feel and live our life. By including these simple actions every day, we can improve our mental health and well-being.
So from the video, you'll have seen that there are 5 ways to well-being, and these are evidence-based ways of, I suppose, simple and practical and effective ways of minding our mental health and our well-being. So they're evidence-based, as I said. Some people love being evidence-based. They think, oh great, evidence-based, I'll use that. And some people think, I don't really mind, evidence-based doesn't really mean anything to me. But I suppose the good thing about something being evidence-based is that it's more than just one person's opinion. It's actually founded in research of many people and what benefited many people. So many people found that there were 5 ways that helped them to, I suppose, build on their well-being and that in their lives. So the first one then is connect. And I suppose I'm pulling on another example. I was sitting out in my garden just the other day, and I had picked up the phone to a friend, and I had a lovely conversation with her. Can't even remember what we were talking about because really it didn't matter. Just afterwards I felt that having had the conversation, I just felt really just kind of uplifted and much better in myself. And I thought for a minute, and I was like, wait now, about a half an hour ago, I was kind of feeling a little bit down in the dumps. Can't even remember what I was feeling down in the dumps about, but that's how I was feeling. And now I'm feeling great. What's after changing? And then I said, I connected, I connected with somebody else. And it just, I suppose, distracted me from whatever was going on, the pressures of life or whatever it was. So it distracted me from what was going on, and it gave me, I suppose, uplifted me because I got to hear something that she was, going through in her life, and it was a funny story that she was telling me. So we had a little giggle and that, so. That's, I suppose, just an example of how connecting, can have that, and it's just a simple example, and we'll all be able to think of our own examples, of connecting. So usually, I suppose, when we think about connecting, we think about connecting outwards, and with other people and that, and that is really important, that we do connect with other people, but also it's really important to connect inwards, and sometimes we forget that, to see, well, how am I doing right now? And what's important to me right now? And, is there something that I need to do? Because, listening to kind of, I suppose, our feelings are amazing things. They tell us that we need to do something. So, am I feeling a certain way that maybe I need to do something differently, or I need to take action on something? So, I suppose connecting inwards and just seeing how I am at the moment. And then also, I suppose, we can think about, how we feel about our community and connecting with our community. So connecting with ourselves, connecting with our nearest and dearest, the people we fall in and out with, the people that we live with or are close to and communicate with regularly, and also then our wider community and how I feel about that. And I suppose as we move through life, we will have different groups that we might be interested in being involved with or that. And I really feel, I suppose, that being connected with a group and having, a group of people, having your peeps, just having a group that you can connect with and that means something to you. That whole idea of peer support is so important, and it can be peer support in the form of, GAA, or it could be in the form of your knitting group. It could be in the form of, that's me, sorry, I love knitting. It could be in the form of, an actual, maybe a mental health peer support group, so whatever it might be, your group of people and the people that make you feel good and feel connected, with your community is so important. And and sometimes you mightn't be a group person. Maybe you don't maybe groups aren't your thing, and you just feel uncomfortable in a group, So maybe there are other ways that you can connect, and it could be actually online. Maybe you're actually you're part of a great group online, but you don't feel maybe kind of as burdened because it's not in person or that, so it works for you. So it's important, I suppose, with all of these that you make them work for you, because otherwise it's just somebody giving you great advice, but what does it mean, So I suppose connecting with the people that make you feel good about yourself, having your group, and it might be even just connecting with the person in the post office, so that can be as good, because it's your community and it's going in, and it might be on a regular basis, and the person in the shop, you just feel connected. And a lot of people have said that they feel more connected now because I suppose there's been a pull together, of communities have pulled together and seen, I suppose, does Mary up the road need something? Can I help her out? Is she cocooning or whatever might be happening? And a lot of people have said that they've actually felt more connected to their communities now, or perhaps actually it's on the reverse. They're volunteering, and they're looking out for a neighbour up the road, or they've connected in with their local volunteer group to help people out. So how you connect with yourself, with your nearest and dearest, and also with your community then can have a really good impact on how you cope, your well-being, your sense of mental health and well-being. So the second one then is be active. And I suppose there's nothing worse than somebody telling you, oh, you need to get out and walk, and you should do this and you should do the other, because we're all different. And for you, being active might be actually going around your garden and pulling up the weeds, and it might make you feel great about yourself because you're listening to the sounds of nature, or, you can kind of get the breeze, get in a bit of vitamin D and the sunlight hitting you and all the rest of it. So you just feel great about that. Plus, the next time you go out into the garden, you're looking and saying, great job, well done, a nice clean area there. I can move on to the next area. So, or for you, it might be, whatever's going on in your life. Perhaps you're caring for a loved one or that, and you actually, even to get out into the garden might be a push, So perhaps for you, it's actually that 5 minutes while you're boiling the kettle, or the 10 minutes while you're washing up the dishes. You're being active, you're moving around the place, and I suppose it's what works for you in your life, So, and also then, it might be the regulars. It might be that you love getting out for a run, every day, and that's your thing, and it makes you feel so good about yourself and you can't miss it. Or maybe you've decided, well, my gym is closed now, so I have to go online. So you found ways around that, perhaps you're saying, gosh, I'm not actually active, and maybe it is something that you want to work on, and that's good too, because now you have, you can pull out your pen and your piece of paper and kind of jot things down here. Maybe I do want to work on, being more active, or whatever it might be. So, and you can take the time, I suppose, to think about that. So that's being active. And the next one then is take notice. And somebody said to me before, a colleague of mine, she said, that take notice, it's kind of like the be active for your mind. So I thought that was very good. I thought, gosh, that really made me think, So being active for your body and taking notice for your mind. So taking notice as in, I suppose, connecting in with how am I? How am I doing? How am I feeling? Perhaps, maybe a mindfulness exercise might just help you to do that, or a meditation might help you to do that. You might say, mindfulness and meditation, get away from me. It mightn't be your thing at all, and that's perfect. Maybe you take notice as you walk along the road and you're taking it in and you're feeling connected with nature, and that's just how it works for you. And when you get home again, you feel much more in tune with yourself because of that walk. So take a notice, I suppose, of, how am I doing? How am I feeling? What are the things that are going well for me? What would I like to build on? What's going good in my life? So just, I suppose, taking notice of all those things and making time to do that is, I suppose, why that area of taking notice is important. And I suppose a good way of doing that, as I said, is mindfulness or journaling, you know, so taking out the pen and the piece of paper again and just jotting things down. If that's your thing, it's really effective. And if it's not your thing, maybe it's the walk, or maybe you're not sure what your thing is. You know, maybe actually I would like to take more notice, but I'm not really sure how I'm going to do that. So, you know, maybe it's nice to just think about that and see how you can incorporate it into your life. So that's connect, be active, take notice. And then we have keep learning. And again, there's nothing worse than somebody saying, now, you should keep learning. Learning is a great way, you know, but I suppose there are so many different sayings, and you'd wonder, why is there sayings that, you know, the day you stop learning is the day you die, and, you know, you learn something new every day. You know, there's all these different expressions about the area of keeping learning. So I suppose the reason why it's important is because it just keeps your brain active, you know, like, and it could be something simple, you know, about, like, say, I'm going for a walk, instead of turning left, today I'm going to turn right, you know, and just it's changing things up, and it's making your brain think about things in a different way and taking things in. It might be, I'm going to cook a different recipe this week. I'm going to pick a new recipe. I'm going to pull out one of those cookbooks. I don't know, maybe you're like me, you have 20 and they're all in the press. So, you know, I'm going to pull out one of those cookbooks and I'm going to pick a new recipe. I'm going to do it from scratch. And I'm going to, you know, make time to go to the shops and make it an experience, I suppose, you know, a nice kind of learning experience, and do that new recipe then. And sure, if you can invite a friend over, then you're connecting at the same time, you know. So I suppose keep learning in the traditional senses, if that's what is important to you. You know, some people love to do a course, and they love to, you know, maybe do something and get a certificate at the end of it. And some people then, you know, maybe they feel like, well, actually, you know, kind of adult learning is not really for me. You know, I'd feel a little bit uncomfortable about it, but I would love to do a new recipe, or I would like to, you know, maybe go on a different route, or try something new, like maybe, you know, zip lining, or, you know, orienteering, or just something different, just to kind of, you know, keep the brain active and change things up. So, that's, I suppose, the area of keep learning. So it can be in the traditional sense, and it can also be in very simple but effective ways that you can apply in your life, you know. So, and then the final one of the 5 ways to well-being is give. And I'm biased, this is my favourite one. I just love the idea of giving. I think it's beautiful. And there's a lovely saying that a scent stays on the hand that gives the flowers. So, you know, the idea of you're giving something, but actually something remains with you after it, you know. And I suppose none of us give with the intention of feeling good or getting the, you know, getting the pat on the back. You know, we don't do it for that. But it's you can't help but feel good, you know, you can't help but feel good. And I think that's a positive thing, actually, you know, if you get something good yourself from giving. So, I suppose when we think about giving, you know, what are the ways that you're good at giving? Like, you know, what do you do regularly, or what's your go-to way of giving? You know, some people are very good at maybe giving their knowledge and their experience, because they've been through, you know, maybe a lot, or maybe they've just been through something specific. You know, maybe they've recently gone through a bereavement, and they can actually give time to somebody else who might have gone through it, and they can, I suppose, just connect in with that person, and they can empathise with them. And, you know, I suppose giving your knowledge, giving your wisdom, giving your experience, that's really, I suppose you can't underestimate the value of that, you know. And I suppose as we get older, as we age, as we move through life, we have a lot more of that to give, you know. So, and it's really, really valuable to do that. Maybe you're good at making things, maybe you're creative, and maybe you love giving homemade gifts. Maybe they could be, you know, muffins. Maybe you're a great cook. Maybe you love making cards. Maybe you are a great crocheter and you love giving crocheted gifts. And I suppose that's me, I love crocheting as well. So, but maybe, when you give something, like I love when I give something and I know that the person appreciates it all the more because I've taken the time to actually make that for them, And then maybe you're good at, perhaps maybe you never forget a birthday. Maybe you have your birthday planner and you always just remember different people's birthdays and that's your thing, and that's a beautiful thing to give as well. I suppose to give people the knowledge that you've thought about them, So we all give in different ways, and whatever way you give, it's a beautiful way of doing it. Some people are great at volunteering and they will give their time that way. They'll volunteer their time, and volunteering is a great way of giving. And I know myself, I love volunteering, and it's a cliche that you get back more than you give, but you really do, because you get back more. You get back support, you get back training, and I suppose you get back that sense of camaraderie from other people that you're volunteering with as well. So that's, I suppose, the 5 ways to well-being, and they're very, as I said, they're simple but effective ways of looking after your well-being. And I know that you're listening to this or watching this and you're saying, I do that, I do that. I do, maybe I do go for my walk, or I do that. And that's brilliant if you're saying that, because it means that these are practical ways of putting, into practice in our lives. And maybe you could say, well, actually, I don't need to work on that area so much, but I would like to work on, maybe connecting. Maybe I haven't been able to connect so much at the moment, because of everything that's going on, or whatever it might be that's going on for your life. It doesn't have to necessarily be a pandemic. It can be just different things that are going on in your life. So wherever you're at in life, I suppose, just to think about those 5 ways to well-being, and what are the practical and simple steps that you can take. If you were to pick one of those, what would you like to do? So, and we can just reflect on 2 questions then as well. So why is I suppose the 5 ways to well-being important during COVID-19? So why is it important? And then how do we incorporate more of these actions into our lives? So if you want to think on those, and you can take out your pen and your piece of paper and just think about those, or think about them in your own time, or maybe you're not, a journaler, so maybe you'd like to think about them as you go for your walk later on. That's our 5 ways to well-being, and I suppose it's really important to think about recovery and mental health as well as well-being. So when we think about mental health, I suppose there's the well-being side of it. So we're building on our mental health and on our coping skills and our abilities all the time. But there are also times where we'll need to recover from something. So, if something difficult, we've mentioned a bereavement, perhaps you've gone through a bereavement and now you need to, I suppose specifically work on that, and that you need to recover from the effects of that. We're all, I suppose, trying to recover from the effects as we move through it of a pandemic, so we have that collective recovery experience. So I suppose to think about, in your own life, what are the things that you're recovering from? And I suppose a way of working through that is to look at Chime. So I mentioned Chime. So we have a video, and we can play that video for you, and it'll just explain a little bit about recovery and mental health, and also it'll introduce the idea of Chime. And we can think a little bit more about that after our video.
In Ireland, the Health Service Executive Mental Health Services vision is that recovery is a reality for all. So what does that actually mean? Well, anyone can experience mental health challenges. The good thing is people can and do recover. So how does a serious mental health challenge affect a person? Well, it may impact on their ability to carry out normal everyday tasks. It may be difficult to form or maintain relationships, find or hold down a job, make friends, and be part of the community. It can be a very lonely place, as they may have experiences that others just don't understand. So what is mental health recovery? First of all, it's personal. Recovery is as unique as you are. It's about living a good life with or without symptoms. It's about what you can do, not what you can't. It can be a journey for some and a destination for others. And it's not always easy, but with the right supports, recovery is real. Evidence suggests that recovery is best supported by 5 things. Just remember the word CHIME. C stands for connections, having good relationships with other people. H is for hope and the belief that you can recover. I is for identity, having a positive sense of yourself. M represents finding your own meaning and purpose in life. Finally, E is for empowerment, focusing on your strengths and having control over your life. That's CHIME.
So from our video, you've been able to see that, recovery is for everybody, and it really is whatever it is that you need in your own life to help you to recover from whatever it is that might have happened. So if it's, I suppose, as I said, we all have a shared experience of, moving through a pandemic. So that's something that we're all collectively experiencing. But it may be a mental health challenge that you're trying to recover from, or it may be, somebody within your family that has an experience of mental health challenge or any other type of challenge. So you might want to think about CHIME, as we talk about that, you might want to, I suppose, apply CHIME to the situation that you're experiencing. So the elements of CHIME, so CHIME stands for C. So the C in CHIME is connect. And we also, that's common to the 5 ways to well-being also. So as we said, so connect really means just, I suppose, who do you need to connect with? Is it, your family, your friends, connecting in with yourself, as we said already, and connecting with your community. So, even if you think about how content do I feel with the connections that I have in my life? And that might, and that applies to you, or it applies to your loved ones. No matter what it is that you're working through, having that, I suppose, having strong connections in your life will just support you as you move through a difficult process. If you have your pen and your piece of paper, you could even just jot down some ideas on the area of connections, that you might want to work on yourself, or do it later on, whatever works best. So the H then in CHIME stands for hope. Hope, I suppose, it means a lot to me personally. I'm sure each and every one of us will have our own, I suppose, meanings attached to these processes. But when I think about hope, sadly, I think about a time when I lost hope, when I felt that I didn't have hope anymore. But I think that it's okay that I have that association, because I'm able to compare it to then when I regained hope. And I suppose you may have heard of the idea of holding the hope. So holding the hope is something that supporters can do when somebody has lost hope for themselves. So, and there are times in life when you'll be going through something so difficult or so traumatic that you might lose hope, and it can happen, and it has happened to me. And it can be a very sad place to be in. But if you have people that can hold the hope for you, it can just help you get through that time. And, then I suppose you can turn it around, and I suppose you can be the holder of hope then for somebody else who doesn't have it. So, so I suppose that's hope really, and if you have lost hope and then you've regained it again, you can, I suppose, pass that on then to somebody who, in turn, who may have lost hope, that you can share that experience and empathise with that person. So, and having hope in your life, it can be as simple as having things to look forward to, like having something nice planned in your life. I have a great friend who's so good at that. She'll always, every now and again, she'll say, what do we have to look forward to? What will we do? Will we go out for lunch next week, or will we do something, And she's great. That's her thing. She's just really good at it. And I compliment her on it, because I just think, I need to compliment her on it because it's brilliant, because she makes sure that we have, I suppose, hope in our lives, like, and in our friendship, that she's always bringing something positive to look forward to. So it can be as simple as just having things planned that we can look forward to. For yourself, maybe with a friend, something nice maybe planned within your family, like, a family holiday, or, simple things like that can just build hope into your life. And again, back to the journaling, if you have a goal that you want to achieve, that can really build hope into your life. So when you journal, if you think about, sometimes maybe, for example, like what we're talking about here, if you say, well, actually, I'm not really content with a certain area, I could be more content, say, with a certain area. You can write down that, in your journal and just say, well, what can I do about it? And then you can set a goal for yourself. And that's, I suppose, turning, maybe a challenge into something really positive, that you're going to actually do something about it and journal about it and choose to do something about it. And that's building hope into your life again, because, it's just, I suppose, always having something that you can strive towards to bring hope into your life. So that's the C and the H of CHIME. So the I then stands for identity. And I suppose it's so important to have a good sense of identity. And if you think about, the times where you feel at ease in yourself. So when are the times that I feel at ease in myself? And what is it that gives me that sense of ease? And usually it's down to something within ourselves, rather than in the external environment. Sometimes we can feel, when I'm with certain types of people or certain groups, or that, I feel more at ease in myself. I feel better about myself. They bring out the best in me. But I suppose it is really important to always think as well, but what is it inside that, helps to bring out that experience? Because, other people can only do so much, but it's ourselves really that makes the difference, So what is it about you that is bringing out the best in yourself in that situation? And then, building in more opportunities to have those times when you feel at ease in yourself and content with yourself, because that's, I suppose, it's so important that we do feel good about ourselves. If we feel good about ourselves, well then, we're bringing the best of ourselves to our interactions, and it's a cycle then, isn't it? We're always building on that. So that's identity. And again, you can jot down in your journal, I suppose, what is my sense of identity, and am I being true to myself, and thinking about those, I suppose, those values that are important to you. And then seeing, well, are my actions in line with my values? So if I value honesty, but I frequently find myself in a situation where I have to, maybe bend the truth a little bit, it's going against my values, and maybe I'm not feeling as content or as good about myself, So maybe that's something that, you could journal about and just see, well, how can I have more times in my life where I am living the values that I actually feel are really important? And that can help with your sense of identity. So the M then in CHIME stands for meaning, and having, I suppose, meaningful roles in our lives. And we went back to, if you think about what we said there around connecting with your community and around giving, and we said about, volunteering. Volunteering can be a really strong, meaningful role in your life. So, and it can be informal volunteering, perhaps it's, maybe you're part of a support group on Facebook or that, and perhaps you leave very just kind of positive comments for people on the group. That's actually a really nice and valuable way of, I suppose, having a meaningful role in an informal, voluntary way. And also maybe then if you are formally volunteering, that can give you a very positive, meaningful role in your life. Being a friend is, something that can be such a positive role and a meaningful role. Being a daughter, being a mother, being a sister, whatever the roles are in your life. And just think about, I suppose, are there negative roles, or are there roles that are positive, but maybe that they're not as positive as I want them to be, maybe some, and it's back to, I suppose, maybe relationships again, and back to, I suppose, how we view ourselves and that as well. So what are, I suppose, the roles that we have? Are they positive, or do we want them to be more positive? Can they be more positive? So more thoughts, I suppose, for the journal, more areas to work on there, and just building more meaningful roles into your life where at all possible, that it will just help you, I suppose, with the recovery process. And the final letter then in CHIME is E. And somebody said to me that it all leads to empowerment. So the E is for empowerment, and all the recovery processes lead to empowerment. And empowerment is, I suppose, it is such an important feeling, nearly, a feeling of empowerment in yourself. Do I feel empowered? And you might not feel empowered. You might feel very empowered in certain areas, but you mightn't feel empowered in other areas. So is there something that I can bring from the areas that I do feel empowered in, and can I bring that across into the other areas that I don't feel so empowered in? And if there's an area that you want to feel more empowered about, maybe it doesn't have to be you. Maybe you could get support for it. And that's still empowering yourself, even though you're reaching out and you're not necessarily, kind of getting all the answers by yourself. You can still reach out and get support and empower yourself by reaching out and getting support for that. So empowerment then, I suppose, empowerment, seeking support if you need support, being able to stand up for yourself, self-advocacy is part of that, being able to use your voice, find your voice and use your voice. And I suppose thinking about the times where you need to use your voice, and I suppose trying to build on those strengths that you need so that you can use your voice when you need it. And believing that you deserve it, having a belief that what I need, what I want, what I have to say, I deserve to say it, and I'm important. It's important enough to me, and I'm important enough to get it. So that's the E in CHIME, and that's I suppose the whole recovery processes of CHIME. I have another great friend that I work with, and she says at the end of every day she'll say, "Have I chimed today?" So it's a great way to, I suppose, to remember it. So if you think to yourself, maybe, going to bed at night, have I chimed today? And what are the ways that I've chimed today? And I have the other colleague that I talked about earlier, she says to herself, kind of, have I built in the 5 ways to well-being in my day today? So maybe for you, I was thinking kind of, because I suppose I need to work on these things as well. We all need to work on these things. So I was thinking it might be helpful if when I wake up in the morning, to think, well, how am I putting the 5 ways into action today? What are my plans for today that I'm going to put these into action? And then when I go to bed at night, have I chimed today? What did I do today to chime? So I suppose that's looking at, I suppose our understanding of mental health, of well-being and of recovery, and of, the importance of those areas as we move through life, as we experience life challenges and that. And let's face it, they happen to everybody, if not every day, well then fairly regularly. Life happens to all of us, and it's really important that we're equipped with tools like this, for example, to help us as we move through it. So I hope that you have enjoyed those, and we might just finish with a little mindfulness exercise. So if you just, wherever you are, if you just put your 2 feet on the floor and just sit comfortably. You might like to close your eyes, you might like to keep them open and focus on something nice in the room, and just let your body sit into itself. So just feel your body. Take in a nice deep breath. And let it out again. And just feel the sensations. You might sense the chair on the floor, your feet on the floor, chair underneath you, your back against the chair. Maybe you're leaning one way more than the other way, and that's fine. Just take it in. And any sensations that you have, the sounds that you can hear, and just accepting them for what they are, not needing to change them. Taking in another breath and out again. Just a sense of acceptance in yourself then. So thank you for taking the time to learn more about, I suppose, mental health, well-being and recovery, and take care, everybody.
Gina, thank you very much. That was a wonderful talk. Thank you so much. We learned so much from you today.